Everyone, this is the California Commission on Disability Access Legislative Committee, and we are now called to order on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. And Abigail, can you please take us through the housekeeping items?
Will do. This legislative committee meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access, CCDA headquarters, located at 400 Arch Street, Suite 312 in Sacramento, California, 95811. Virtual attendees are in compliance with the Bagley-King Open Meeting Act. Please remember to specify the following. If a state body attends a meeting via teleconference from a remote location, they must disclose if any other individuals are 18 years or older present in the room, as well as their relationship to them. The visual appearance of a member of the state body on the camera may cease only when the appearance would be technologically impractical. Public comment on matters not on the agenda may be taken at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment on matters on the agenda will be heard as the commission takes up agenda items for discussion. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers who utilize translators to make public comment will be allotted no more than 6 minutes, unless they use simultaneous translation equipment. CCDA is precluded from discussing matters not on the agenda. However, CCDA members may ask for clarification purposes. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The StreamText Live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use, and staff can provide the link when asked. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee when they would like to speak. We will also give an opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting at which they can unmute themselves. If you are attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or to mute yourself. If you would like to alert CCDA staff, press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and staff will call on you. To raise your hand, please use the following steps. If you're using Zoom via web browser, first click on the icon labeled Reactions in the toolbar on the bottom center of your screen. After clicking Reactions, a new window will show on your screen. At the bottom right of the screen, there will be a button labeled Raise Hand. If you're using Zoom via mobile device, click on the 3 sideways dots labeled More. The More option is on the toolbar on the bottom right of the screen. After clicking More, a new window will pop up at the bottom of your screen. Press Raise Hand. Please remember to unmute yourself if you are not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you are having technical issues throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. If you are unable to utilize the chat function to alert CCDA staff, please unmute yourself and request permission to speak. If there are technical issues and that impact the proceeding of the meeting, the body will take the following procedures. 1, stay calm and reassure. Communicate to all participants that technical issues have occurred and CCDA staff is working to resolve them. Step 2, backup communication. Alternative messaging to all participants, mass email communication from CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. Step 3 would be a technical reboot. CCDA staff would attempt to resolve technical issues. And if so, step 4, we would adjourn the meeting if technical issues persist and compromise the meeting's purpose. The meeting will be adjourned and may be rescheduled if necessary. And with that, that is the closing of housekeeping, and I'll pass it back to you, Commissioner Lilbridge.
Thank you, Abigail. We will now go to the roll call. So Abigail, if you can lead us in taking the roll, please.
Will do. First, we have Chair Commissioner Scott Lilbridge.
Present.
We have Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson.
Present.
Thank you. We have Commissioner Sarah Ann Shapiro.
Present.
Thank you. And then we have Commissioner Ben Conway. And then we have Committee Member Dan Oakenfuss. And with that, Commissioner Lilbridge, we have quorum for the meeting.
Thank you, Abigail. At this time, if there are other commissioners, legislative members, or other public officials that are attending the meeting, Abigail, you can identify them.
Hi, Commissioner Lilbridge. We have our DGS legislative consultant joining us, Mallory Michael, as well as our checklist committee member from the CBSC, Beth Maynard.
Great. We have no members of the public that are present today, so we do not need to identify them. If there are any public members online that would like to identify themselves, Abigail, can you identify them or ask them to raise their hand?
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members that would like to identify themselves.
Okay, great. If that's the case and there's no further comments, we'll move on to item number 2 on our agenda, which is approval of the April 24th, 2024 meeting minutes. If everybody has had a chance to look those over, I would like to entertain a motion from someone, one of our committee members.
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I move acceptance of the minutes as distributed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Appreciate that. First, are there any comments from any of the legislative members attending virtually or other commission members that are attending virtually regarding the minutes?
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Are there any comments from members of the public?
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members.
And there are no public members in person today, so we'll skip that. So if there are no other comments, I'd like Abigail for you to take the roll call, please. Roll call vote.
Will do. First off, we have Chair Commissioner Lilbridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarah Ann Shapiro,
Aye.
Commissioner Ben Conway, Committee Member Dan Okenfuss. With that, Chair Commissioner Littlebridge, all CCDA Commissioner and committee member votes have been noted. The motion carries and the minutes have been approved as submitted by a 3-0 vote.
Great. Thank you, Abigail. With that, we will move on to agenda item number 3, which is comments from the public on issues that are not on the agenda today. So first, are there any comments from the public attending virtually that may be online?
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members that would like to speak at this time.
And there are no public members present in person today. Are there any comments from any of our other commissioners that are online?
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Okay, great. And if there are no further comments or any other items not in the agenda, we'll move on to item number 4, which is our CCDA listening forums. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lilbridge. This is April. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Can you hear me, Abby?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to give an overview of how our most recent listening forum went and talk a little bit about plans for future forums. And I am really excited to share that we held a listening forum in Orange County almost 2 months ago now. And it was mainly attended by chamber representatives. We had chamber representatives from the Yorba Linda Chamber of Commerce, the Seal Beach Chamber of Commerce, and the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce. In fact, the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce president also was on our panel. And so it was called ADA Opportunities for Small Businesses, and it followed a similar pattern of our previous forums that were held in Monterey and San Jose. We also had some disability advocates from the Dale McIntosh Center, and we also had a Dale McIntosh Center representative on our panel. And we also had a disability community, 2 disability community representatives in the audience as well. And it was a really good discussion. And what we did was we had a local certified access specialist, as well as I mentioned, a chamber rep and an independent living center rep. We also had a training by state architect Ida Claire on some of the basics of access that businesses should think about, and some incentives that businesses can use if they are faced with a lawsuit by hiring a certified access specialist, and how the law protects businesses who do that in certain ways. And we also had some questions from the audience, and we certainly learned a lot. And we're planning on a second online version of that listening forum, and I'll be reaching out to some of our Orange County representatives in the coming days to plan that. And so within the next few weeks, you'll hear from us, via our social media and our newsletter and our mailing list about the online version. And we're also really looking forward to, building the relationships in Orange County that we started by conducting this forum. And I also wanted to share that we are planning a Sacramento themed listening forum. And I had a really good conversation with Commissioner Lillibridge and Commissioner Holloway today about ideas for that. We want to remember that although Sacramento is thought of as a state entity, that actually there's a region here. There's a Sacramento County and Yolo County region, that Farm to Fork region, and there's small businesses here. So we want to make sure that we're talking with them. So we talked a lot today about some ideas for future forums and how to make sure that we're engaging with the local businesses. And so we're planning, we're looking at sort of late fall to do that, but not when it gets to the busy time, but a little bit before that. So again, check our social media and newsletter and our mailing list for that. And then in early 2025, we're going to be working with the city and county of Los Angeles to put on a listening forum for the greater LA region. And I'm also working with commissioners from the Southern California region. If you haven't heard from me yet, you'll hear from me by the end of the week. I've been making some purposeful one-on-ones with commissioners who live in different parts of the state, particularly the southern part, to talk about future listening forums for 2025 and 2026, and also how to outreach to their municipalities and their contacts. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. I had a really good conversation with Commissioner Dillard last week, and he took me on a tour of the Crenshaw district, and they're going to be a part of a future forum as well. And we talked about potential ideas for that. And I met a local restaurateur who has done a lot of access upgrades to his business with local dollars, and really looked forward to hearing his story. So that's what we're trying to do with these forums, is really making sure that small businesses in those regions come out, meet with local representatives from their municipality, meet with disability access representatives as well, chamber representatives, and learn their resources and tips for keeping their organization strong and bringing in more customers with disabilities. So with that, I will send it back to Chair Commissioner Lillibridge.
Fantastic, fantastic report, April. At this time, if there's any comments from our legislative committee members that are attending online, please indicate.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Okay. Since I'm the only legislative committee member here in person, I just want to say that really looking forward to the listening forums that we're going to have here in Sacramento. We did kind of brainstorm about some topics and some logistics for that. So we're looking forward to that. And then speaking of the future listening forums down in especially the LA area, it's very timely with the Olympics. Just, believe it or not, it's just around the corner because it takes a blink of an eye and all of a sudden we're going to have 2028 is going to be here in no time. So that'll be a very interesting discussion, especially in light of the influx of folks from around the world in the LA area. So looking forward to that. So that's my 2 cents. So now I want to open up any other any other commissioners or members of the public that are attending virtually. If you have any comments or questions about April's presentation, now's the time to raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Okay, and we still have no public members that are here present with us today, which will bring us then to agenda item number 5. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mallory Michael, our wonderful DGS legislative consultant, and hopefully we've got her static taken care of. If not, hopefully she'll just we'll just bear with it and move forward. So Mallory, it's up to you now.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lilbridge. Hopefully the
You sound
static
great.
is gone. Ah, wonderful. Yay. I did my own IT work over here. I'm learning something. All this work from home stuff has taught me a lot, that's for sure. Mallory Michael here, Ledge Consultant over at Department of General Services. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for having me today. I will be providing an update on 2 bills, AB 1757 and AB 3279. These bills should not be new, as I did discuss both of them at the full day commission meeting previously. And so AB 1757 by Assemblymember Colra, just to help us recall, as I previously shared, this bill relates to internet websites and accessibility. So this bill was previously a Judiciary Committee bill and it was introduced last year. It has since been amended mid-June and it started to move again. So this bill would provide that statutory damages based on a specific accessibility barrier on an internet website under these provisions shall only be recovered against an entity as defined if the internet website is not accessible as defined. So the bill would require that the plaintiff prove either that the plaintiff personally encountered a specific barrier that caused the plaintiff to experience a difference in the plaintiff's access to or use of the internet website as compared to other users because the internet website was not accessible, or that the plaintiff was deterred from accessing or using all or part of the internet website or the content of the internet website because the internet website was not accessible. The bill also establishes an affirmative defense to the claim, certain elements including that the entity identified the specific accessibility barrier in a digital accessibility report posted on an accessibility page on their website. So this bill is going to actually be heard tomorrow on August 15th during the Senate Appropriations Suspense hearing. And that's just when both, so tomorrow's suspense day, meaning Senate Appropriations as well as Assembly Appropriations will disperse of their all the bills that they have on suspense hearing. And so this bill will be one of them up in Senate Appropriations. And AB 3279, this bill is by the Committee on Judiciary regarding the State Bar of California. And so as I previously shared on this bill, this is just like the annual State Bar bill by the Judiciary Committee that reauthorizes the fees for licensed attorneys and unlicensed or inactive, I should say, for active and inactive attorneys, sorry. And it does some policy reforms for the agency. So this bill contains a number of items, as I mentioned, the fees for active and inactive attorneys. Most noteworthy for CCDA is that the bill deletes a reference to a April 30th report deadline date, only because the report is now included in an annual discipline report that's now due on October 31st. So that is kind of just like minor technical. Also, which is new that I did report on the full day commission meeting, is that this bill will also require, beginning July 1st, 2026, until January 1st, 2030, the state bar to annually report to the legislature on the number of complaints regarding access issues relating to the biannual state bar. And in the committee analysis, it just kind of says that the committee has received and has heard of a lot of complaints, especially as the biannual state bar has moved to an online platform because of COVID. And so they've been seeing an uptick in a lot of complaints. So they just want to be able to gather that data. And so that's what this will do, is just to be able to give the legislature that data so they can see what kind of complaints are coming up. The committee analysis did also note that there was some complaints regarding ADA violations. So that is something that was probably important for CCDA. So I wanted to highlight that. This bill is currently on the Senate floor, waiting to be taken up and voted on. And so that takes care of the bills, but I just wanted to make a general note for some of the end of session items. So the legislature will have only floor session between August 19th and 31st. And August 31st is the last day of session for each house to pass bills. Final recess will then begin upon adjournment on August 31st. So crazy times as we are nearing the end of session. And so, those are the only two bills that I have flagged at the moment, and I'm happy to take questions. And that's all on my end. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Mallory. Great presentation there. So first off, any of our legislative committee members that are attending virtually, if you have any questions or comments, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any committee members or commissioners that would like to speak on this topic.
Okay, so then next I'd like to open it up to any of the members of the public that are attending virtually. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, there appears to be no indication of any public members that would like to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, thank you. We still have no members of the public here in person. So in that case, we will move on to agenda item number 6. Thanks again, Mallory. Appreciate your report. Agenda item number 6 is the Pacific ADA webinar series, and our Executive Director, April Dawson, will give us a report on that.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge. This is April. So for the past couple of months, we have hosted with our friends at the Pacific ADA Center a ADA business webinar series that we've been calling ADA Opportunities for Small Businesses. We hosted our first one on May 30th, and that covered the intersection between Title I of the ADA, which covers employment, and Title III, which is places of public accommodations, or in other words, businesses open to the public, which is the main focus of CCDA's purview and work. And we talked about how those two titles intersect, and we talked about issues such as effective communication and service animals, for example, how to accommodate employees with disabilities on the job, how to perform reasonable modifications for people with disabilities who are customers. And then on July 18th, our most recent webinar in the series is we talked about the ADA and Olmstead anniversaries. So the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law on July 26, 1990. And so it was the 34th anniversary this year. So we talked about the ADA 34 years ago versus, how it's applied in today's world. We talked about, website accessibility cases, some Affordable Care Act rulemaking that's happened, and some other rulemaking such as the website Title II rulemaking that just came out. We also talked about the Atchison Hotels court case and talking about testers and whether or not they have standing in court that's being talked about. And we also were pleased to have 2 women who are people who experience disability, who live in the community, who shared their perspective of what it was like to grow up with the ADA and with civil rights, and their perspective on that, and how it's evolved as we've gone into the technical age, and how to, maintain disability rights in the future. So that was our July 18th webinar. And I hope you will all join us for our September 5th webinar. It'll be a lunch and learn from 12 to 1. You can go to our website as well as our most recent newsletter and our mailing list to sign up. And it's going to be on Zoom. We will have ASL as well as captioning included as a standard. And we also can offer language access interpretation upon request and other accommodations upon request. And it's going to be titled Holiday Hospitality. So a lot of our business stakeholders are retail stores and restaurants, for example, and we're coming just around the corner is sort of that busy sort of holiday time for those industries. And so we're going to give them some tips on how to make access fun and inviting for customers with disabilities during this time. So we'll talk a lot about maintaining accessible features, particularly around, holiday themed displays. We'll talk a lot about effective communication if you're working with people who have speech, hearing, or visual disabilities, or what to do if a service animal comes in and you're not sure whether they're a service animal or even if they are, how to be properly accommodating to them. And we're also going to be talking with you about, some modifications that you might need to make. You might need to have someone help someone get something off of a high shelf, for example, or make sure that your bathrooms don't have excessive decor to interrupt access to those areas. So we're really excited about this, and we really hope that you'll come and learn about disability access around special times of the year, and how retail stores and restaurants can invite customers with disabilities into their space in a really fun way. So hope to see you all there on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, April. That's a great report. I'm going to open it up to our other legislative members that are attending virtually. If you have any questions or comments about April's report, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any commissioners or committee members that would like to speak on the agenda item.
Okay. I'm just going to chime in and say that I have been able to sit in on portions of the previous two. And what I really did, and you mentioned it, what I really appreciated most about those webinars are the personal stories. Those are just so much more powerful than just kind of stating the facts of this is the law and this, so that's what I really appreciated most about those. So I would encourage everybody here, tell your friends, tune in for that September 5th. Plus we're going to be talking about the holidays, so that's always a fun topic to talk about in September. With that, I'd like to open it up to any questions or comments from our public that are attending virtually today. Please raise your hand if you have any comments or questions.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members that would like to speak.
Okay, then great. We still have no public members here with us, so that will allow us to move on to agenda item number 7, CCDA's annual report to the state legislature. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to our executive director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lilbridge. This is April. Well, I want to first give a little bit of a history of what the annual report is for those of you who are new voices in the room. So one of CCDA's statutory obligations is to, we have a legal portal, and what we do is we collect data on alleged disability access violations related to construction-related disability claims, as well as websites. We also collect copies of demand letters and case resolution reports, and attorneys and law firms are required by law to submit that data to us in our portal. And then what we do is we aggregate all that data, and we create an annual report to the state legislature where we create a couple of different top 10 lists, as well as information about what we've done to increase business access compliance throughout previous year reporting period. So we find what the top 10 violations are in those two categories, alleged violations, and we also talk about the top 10 regions. We look at the zip codes and the cities and counties of where those zip codes are to talk about, what are the types of violations happening and where in California are they trending for that reporting period. We also collect data about whether the cases were settled or how the case was resolved, how the case resolved itself if it wasn't settled, whether or not the person, hired a CASP and did an evaluation conference. We also look at the type of business. We use that data not only to inform our legislative partners about trends in disability access violation data, but we also use it for ourselves to decide, where should we put our limited resources and our outreach, as well as our toolkit and webinar and other data and other programming. So for example, the way that I'll be talking about the accessible parking campaign a little bit later, but how the accessible parking campaign came about was a couple of annual reports ago. We found that parking was really trending, and one of our legislators created Assembly Bill 2917, Assemblymember Fong, and required us to work on websites and also parking and exterior passive travel. And so that's an example of how we use our data to target our programming. Is if we see a trend in a particular region or in a particular area, such as accessible parking happened, then we will use that data for good to reach the businesses that need it the most. And so typically, our report is usually released kind of mid to late the following year. So for the 2023 annual report should be coming out very soon. It's in the very last stages of internal review. So CCDA staff has already verified the data on our end and created the content. And for the last couple of months, it's just been going through the process. It goes to our legislative consultant and her management, as well as moving up the chain through the DGS management, as well as Department of General Service or DGS management, and also to the Office of Public Affairs. So it's in its very last stage of approval. And as soon as it's approved, we will be able to go ahead and release that to the public. And we've already begun work on the templates for the 2024 annual report. And the data that we use is for the prior calendar year. So the 2024 annual report will be for the 2023 calendar year's data. So that's how that works. So thank you so much. And I look forward to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, April. Open it up to our legislative committee members that are attending online. If you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lowbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Okay, great. With that, then I'll open it up to any comments or questions from members of the public that are attending online.
Chair Commissioner Lowbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members.
Great. I appreciate your report, April, and it does always seem like, man, it's 2023 and it's just coming out, but you described it very well. How many different sets of eyeballs have to look at that thing before it actually gets printed and distributed for public consumption? So thank you very much for describing that process, because it's very informative. With that, we will move on to agenda item number 8, and that is website accessibility. And once again, we're going to turn it back over to our executive director.
Did we do? Yeah. That was really fast. I'm sorry. that was really fast. That was lightning fast. It was like Jeopardy. I was like, did we do public comment? This is April. Sorry about that. So I will I'll talk to you about the website accessibility toolkit. So as I mentioned in my prior report, AB 2917 legally, which became law in the 2022 legislative cycle, mandated that CCDA create not just the accessible parking campaign and a toolkit about accessible parking and exterior passive travel, but also start collecting website accessibility alleged violation data, as well as create a toolkit, and mandated us to work with partners such as the Division of the State Architect and the Department of Rehabilitation. And so we've gotten to work on that over the last several months. We have had conversations with the Department of Rehab as well as the Division of the State Architect, and we have gotten ideas for content. We also have talked to the Department of Rehab has a sort of an accessible technology department and an expert named Jake Johnson, who has previously spoken at one of our meetings. So since then, we've actually had Jake has actually, we've talked about on our agenda for the full commission at least twice since the Fong bill passed about digital accessibility. We've had at least 2 panels about it, including a recent one a few full commission cycles ago where Jake came and talked about digital accessibility and why it's important for our business stakeholders to pay attention to that. I've also reported in prior executive director reports that the Department of Justice recently came out with Title II rulemaking standards and said that the WCAG 2.0 should be the standard for Title II entities, and release some other information about the timeline that Title II entities have to have to make sure that their websites are fully accessible and the data and what to do with historical information and things like that. And so that it relates to state and local governments, but the way the DOJ rulemaking and the recommendations for Title III entities, which are businesses, has gone, the Title II regulation announcement can be thought of as a signal to businesses about making sure that you should at least have the WCAG 2.0 as part of your digital repertoire. And the Department of Justice has regularly come out and said that businesses who conduct, commerce online have to create equal access to people with disabilities. So what we're going to do is our website toolkit is in development right now. It's actually pretty close to the final draft. And we're really looking forward to releasing it and having subsequent programming following that content. It's going to closely mirror the website accessibility information that the Department of Rehab already releases related to Title II entities. We've just been adapting it to Title III entities, but a lot of the information is still the same. And so we look forward to that, and we expect to have that out hopefully by the end of this year, very early next year. So thank you. That is what I have for the website accessibility toolkit development.
Thank you, April. Very interesting, timely topic nowadays. I'm going to open this up now to legislative committee members that are attending virtually. If you have any questions or comment, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any legislative committee members or commissioners that would like to speak on this agenda item.
Okay. Since there are no legislative committee members here in person, I'm going to open it up to other commissioners or members of the public that are attending online. Any comments or questions?
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication of any public members that would like to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, great. Then that moves us to agenda item number 9. Educational materials for business owners, Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and California Building Code, or the CBC compliance. And once again, we'll turn it back over to our Executive Director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge. This is April. Well, I have 3 projects that I wanted to talk to you about that are on our technical side that are either in development or have hit the street already. Our first one I'm going to talk about is our accessible parking toolkits. And for those of you who would like a visual description, on the screen are the front pages of both of our toolkits. And on the left, it says Guide to Accessible Parking Business Owners and Operators with our logo and the DGS logo. And there's a picture of a parking lot with an access symbol and an exterior path to the business from that parking spot. And then there's a picture of an Asian gentleman wearing a waiter uniform, serving 3 Black women in pastel colors, one of them seated in a black wheelchair, at like an outdoor eating area. Maybe it's a restaurant. I think that's kind of the thought, is he's serving them in an accessible area outside. And then to the right, it says a guide to accessible parking for the construction industry. And there are the DGS logo, the California Commission on Disability Access logo, and the Contractors State License Board logo at the bottom. And the picture shown are construction plans. So black and white, you know, what you would see if you were like doing a plan review as like an architect, or like you were going to build a building, just kind of spread out on top of each other. So we are pleased to say that our 2 guides have hit the street. You can get copies of them on our website. And we also have distributed them already through our mailing list and talked about them in our most recent newsletter. And we had a really productive meeting today with the Contractor State License Board, and they co-sponsored our construction industry toolkit. And they are going to be helping us with the outreach phase to the construction industry. So we talked a lot about the different ways we're going to do that with them through social media engagement, public meeting engagement, interacting in the public space with them and their members in different ways through like listservs and some creative content for YouTube. So we really hit the ground running talking with them today about that. We're also excited that during our listening forums, we talk about these guides, particularly the Business Owners and Operators Guide, to make sure small businesses are aware of their accessible parking, exterior path of travel obligations. And so we're in the outreach phase now of the accessible parking campaign, and we're really excited. And I look forward to sharing more and hearing your ideas for future engagement to make sure that this gets out to the people that it needs to get out to. I will also share that we are in the process of translating both toolkits into the top threshold languages in California. And we also, we had to get some technical assistance from the Office of State Printing, and they were very kind to help us to try to get the renderings to also have those multiple languages included as well. So as soon as those renderings are finished, we can finish the project of translating those 2 toolkits. And we're really looking forward to that. So that's our accessible parking campaign outreach phase for those 2 toolkits. The second is our business listing. Our business listing project was requested a couple of full commissions ago. I believe it was the April full commission of last year. It was voted by the commission that we develop a business listing, which contains like the common disability access violations that businesses should be aware of and some tips. I just looked at the final draft of that, and it looks beautiful and is going through the Office of Public Affairs review. It'll go through a similar review, not quite as lengthy, but a similar review to our accessible parking our annual report. And then once it gets the green light, we'll be able to share it at a future commission meeting and get it out to the public as well. And a lot of the content is similar to content that you'll find in some of our other recent materials, but kind of updated and kind of in kind of a more condensed, fun kind of way. So looking forward to showing our business listing. That'll be done within the next couple of weeks. And so that should be out by, again, the end of the end of this year or at the very latest, very, very, very early 2025. And the third project that I wanted to share with you is we have looked into what are called key codes. So those of you who might be our attorney stakeholders who might be listening in know that when an attorney goes into our legal portal to select the drop-down menus for what alleged violation they are legally supposed to report on, like let's say they're representing a client and so they're uploading a violation copy from federal or state court to us. They have to use these key codes and drop-down menus. And one of the things that we learned through our accessible parking campaign that the state architect and others shared with us when they were reviewing how we were describing certain violations, we realized that we were using kind of a lot of layman's terms for some of the key code violations, and the way we were attempting to use layman's terms actually confused the true legal definition in the code between exterior path of travel and accessible route. So although it didn't undermine the veracity of the data, we do want to fix that because we want to make sure that the way that we're thinking about a certain phrase matches what the code thinks about it. And we also want to make sure that attorneys are able to describe what they actually mean when they're using the key code dropdowns. And so we're embarking on that project. We're going to start with the simple terms first, and then we're going to be talking to a couple of our stakeholders in the legal community, particularly those attorneys and law firms that regularly report to us, and ask them to participate in some learning sessions and some surveys about how the key codes look to them. Because the last thing we want to do when we clarify the language is go in and make it harder for the attorneys to use the key codes. So that's what we're going to be working on. And so we're really looking forward to that. And so I just want to thank you for listening to my report on Accessible Parking Campaign, Business Listing and Key Code Project, and look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you for that report, April. And I'm really appreciative of that last project with the key code and the attorney compliance, because that's something that's kind of been on my soapbox about making sure that we're not creating a challenge for the attorneys to comply with what the law is requiring them to do. So better data we get, the better we can fulfill our mission here. So I'm going to open it up to any of our legislative committee. My lips are not working today. Apologize for that. Legislative committee members that are attending online. If you have any questions or comment, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lowbridge.
Jacqueline,
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
I raised my hand. I did the *9. I don't know if you were able to see it, but I wanted just to thank our wonderful executive director for her verbal description of the visual presentation that she did. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Chair
Opening it-
Commissioner Lowbridge, there appears to be no other commissioners.
Sorry, I stepped on you there, Abigail.
No,
I'm opening it up to other members of the public or other commissioners that are attending online. If you have comments or questions, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lowbridge, there appears to be no indication of any public members that would like to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, thank you, Abigail. With that, then we will move on to agenda item number 10, which is ideas for future agenda items. I'm going to open that up to our legislative committee members that are in attendance.
Chair Commissioner Lowbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any commissioners or committee members that would like to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, then I'm going to open it up to members of the public that are attending online. If you have any desire to add a future agenda item, please raise your hand We'll hear you.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members that would like to speak on this agenda item.
Okay, great. And we still have no members of the public attending in person. So we'll move on to agenda item number 11, which is needing a motion to adjourn.
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I move we adjourn.
Thank you. You get a second?
This is Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Abigail, if you'll take the roll call vote.
Will do. First off, we have Chair Commissioner Lilbridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarah Ann Shapiro,
Aye.
Commissioner Ben Conway, Committee Member Dan Okenfuss. With that, Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, all CCDA Commissioner and committee member votes have been noted. The motion carries and this meeting is adjourned.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You
Thank
do
you.
the same, all of you.